Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our event brought to you by Express and Sawgrass. Well, of course, we do sublimation, but anyway, Express and Sawgrass have gotten together to show you a few things for the Christmas market. So we're going to talk about some sales and marketing that you can do for the upcoming holiday season. And then I'm actually going to demonstrate a couple of different products for you that were provided to me by Express. Okay, so I know it's just the beginning of October, but Christmas is really just around the corner, and it definitely is a big time of the year for retail sales. Now, a lot of times we refer to it really as the holiday market because we realize there's other celebrations besides just Christmas that are going on. So a lot of what we talk about for the Christmas market could be applied to some other ethnic celebrations as well. So do keep that in mind because it's typically a season that's built around giving, okay? And that means giving of gifts. And that's the number one thing that we can probably do with sublimation for the Christmas holiday marketplace, okay? Now, when I look at Christmas, I break it down into two basic categories for the retail world. The first is decorations, and the second is gifts. So let's talk about decorations first. Because a lot of times when we're thinking about Christmas, we're thinking about all the little symbols that go with Christmas. Okay, I mean everything from trees to Santa Claus to manger scenes, etc. Right? So those are what we call the decorations because they are themed. And that's one of the things too that you'll find in Creative Studio is we have a tremendous amount of images that are themed for Christmas. So if you haven't taken the time to look, please do. We're always adding new stuff. We have new artists in there. So there's a lot going on if you haven't been there lately in the stock designs within Creative Studio. Okay, so what are some of the different things that people do for decorations for the Christmas season? One that I'll be showing to you in a few minutes are ornaments, okay? Ornaments for your tree. We're going to actually be sublimating this one in just a few minutes. And this is actually wood, okay? So it can give you a little different look and feel because you can actually see the wood grain here, which will sometimes show up through the image depending on what the image is. So this is a great product that we can put virtually anything we want. We can put photographs. Maybe it's baby's first Christmas, okay? Or maybe it's a pet. Or maybe it's just a commemorative event that happened. People do lots of different decorations. If you talk to my wife, for example, she's done a personalized ornament for each of our 3 kids since they were born. Now, keeping in mind that my oldest child now is 31 years old, you can start to imagine just how overloaded the tree can be with all of these types of things. But people do collect them, so that's something you want to keep in mind. Then we think about how houses are maybe decorated more on the interior when we're talking about sublimation. For example, serving trays. A lot of times we have lots of food, okay, and we gain lots of weight during Christmas, but the serving tray is very important that way. Drinkware, you know, the mugs and the tumblers and the wine tumblers are very popular right now. So you have drinkware where you can put the Christmas themes on there. Coasters, aprons, shirts. We start talking about outdoors, floor mats, for the front door to greet your guests with a nice holiday message. In addition, some of the flags can be used as just little banners maybe that we hang just outside, again with that Christmas theme. So it's really up to you. And the key with the Christmas themes really is what goes on the product. There's lots of different blanks, but it's how you actually decorate the product that determines what it is and also determines its value. So if you're making products that you can sell to others, then you definitely want to pay attention to having really good looking designs on there that make people interested in your product and willing to spend money with you for that particular product. So it really just comes down to you. Start thinking about things. Look through like the Express website, for example, and look at all the different blanks that they have. And then take a look in Creative Studio at some of the imaging that we have and see if you can start putting together some really cool ideas of products that you can produce and sell. Okay, that's our themed type of Christmas gifts. The other part of Christmas is gift giving. Now, when we start talking about gift giving, I want you to think about this. Have you ever received a Christmas gift that really had a true Christmas theme to it? Maybe, but most of the time you don't. Okay? So when we talk about gift giving, we're talking about gifts that don't have a theme per se as tied into the holiday. For example, this is when we start doing very personalized things that are very personal to the person we're giving it to. Because when you personalize something, there's an emotional connection to it, and it's a gift from the heart. And that's important because, again, it raises the perceived value. A very, very popular, easy to do type of product will be a mug, and we're going to do a mug here in just a few minutes too. In fact, Express has provided me with some very unique mugs because they have the marbleized finish, totally different from that all white finish that we see with most mugs. So these are very easy to personalize. Now, I will say in the case of these particular mugs, because they are marbleized, as you see, with that extra color, these may not be ideal for a photograph. A lot of times we do put a picture on there when we're personalizing. They tend to work better with just straight text and quotes and things like that. So kind of think about that when you're choosing which mug you want to use. If you're actually looking for one, for example, where you do want to put on the photograph of, say, a child, because these are really popular with grandparents to have their grandkids on their mugs, right? And the same thing even with parents. Then you may want to go to a more of a traditional white mug because you're going to get the best photographic image that way. But that's where a big part of your business is probably going to come from during Christmas, and that's creating personalized gifts for people to give to others. So as you start planning for Christmas, there's different ways that you can reach out to people. Now, some of you have online stores. Some of you might have what we call brick and mortar stores, as in a physical location. So the sooner that we can start getting our samples out that people can see, the better. So if you have social media, just start making samples and putting it in front of your customers. If you have a place like a store, as I said, either online or a physical store, get the samples out where people can see them, touch them, and feel them, but still put them on social media as well. And take some of your best things and put them out there so people can start thinking, and start thinking now. If you're dealing with people that routinely come in to buy things from you or contact you to buy from you, go ahead and say, hey, have you thought about Christmas yet? Now's the time to plan, okay? Because things get really busy and hectic as we go along. So keep that in mind. A couple other tips real quick too. As you start looking towards the holiday season, because it's going to get here quicker than you think, make sure that you have the supplies that you need. Make sure you have enough paper, okay? Make sure that you do have an extra set of ink if you need that. And that's just a simple checking out your ink, once a week. Make sure your levels are up, and if you're getting low, then make sure you get your ink, because the last thing you want to do is run out of ink in the middle of an order, okay? That's bad. And then there's my personal little tip to everyone, and that is to make sure you have a spare waste ink tank. So many people don't even know what that is if you're new. But with each of our Sawgrass printers, we do have a waste ink tank that's installed on there. And so when you're doing like head cleanings, extra ink that was used in the head cleaning can go down into that tank. The tank looks just like this, because this is one, and it is actually installed right here where the inks are, down underneath the inks. Now, it's really hard to install. All you got to do is pull one out and put one back in. So it's actually not hard at all. And you do have an indicator on the front of your machine, as well as in your Sawgrass Print Manager, that tells you the level of the waste ink tank. But here's the thing. Once it's full, the printer stops. And this isn't something you can go to the sink and just empty out. You need to put a new one in. So I suggest you have a spare. Always have a spare one available. They're not very expensive. Just contact Express and they can get one into your hands, okay? So the worst thing that can happen, trust me, after all these years of being involved in product decoration, is that you're getting near the end of the season where you're selling. And that means deadlines, and all of a sudden it's a weekend and you're trying to finish up an important order, and oops, something runs out with your ink, or this fills up with ink, and now you're down until you can get back with the regular business hours and get in contact with your distributor. So that's part of the planning we need to do. Also looking at substrates and getting an idea of what we want to carry, and really put together some good ideas. Build some templates in your Creative Studio that you can go back to. If you haven't done a lot in Creative Studio with our favorites, favorites is one of the most powerful things in there because you can choose a favorite by clicking on the heart, and that's with whatever it is you're working on. You'll see me doing that in just a minute. But when you click on that heart, it makes it a favorite, and you can get back to it real easy. Now that's important. Think about all the fonts we have in there. I don't know how many fonts we have in there. In my mind, we have 1 million, but it's not really that many. But there's a lot, okay? There's a whole lot of fonts. And once you find that favorite font, you want to make it a favorite so you can find it again, because a lot of times we forget the names and we can't find them again when we want to repeat something. Now, if you have the free version of Creative Studio, that's great. You got lots of great features and stuff, but you have a limited number of favorites. If you're in our subscription program, then you're able to get unlimited favorites, and I'm really a big believer in that, okay? A lot of people, when they go up to the higher level, the premium version of Creative Studio, you know, they're looking to get more designs, which is great because you're going to get that, right? But I look at getting things like more favorites, okay? It helps me out tremendously. All right, enough talking. Let's do something. Let's make something, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make one of these mugs, okay? I'm going to take this particular mug here, which is the pink marbleized, and I'm going to put something onto it, and we're going to sublimate it and see how it comes out, okay? So just follow along while I set up my design. I'm going to go to the Sawgrass website, sawgrassinc.com, and then once we're there, we're going to click on Creative Studio and then start creating. Now, this particular mug is a 15-ounce mug, and it's if you get a good look at it, it's a very wide mug, but not very tall. So it's a little different. Alex, could you hand me that white mug right in front of you? Right, well, right here with a little girl on it. Yes, thank you. You know, when we look at some of our more traditional mugs, like this is about an 11-ounce mug, but in a traditional style, you see the difference? The diameter is different and the height is different, okay? So we just have to think about that when we're designing, all right? So when I went in and I started looking at some of the templates for this, I realized that this one seems to be about the same as a camp mug, okay? A camp mug. Camp mugs, C-A-M-P, camp, tend to be not as tall, but wider, all right? So that gives me a little better design platform. So when I go to choose my products, I'm just gonna go ahead to favorites, because guess what? I have camp mug right here with a heart on it. So I'm gonna bring the camp mug into our design area. So that made it easy with my favorites, okay, just to bring it in. All right, so what I wanna do, traditionally, we'll try to do something with a design, image, photo, name, or whatever on one side, hand on the other side, okay? Because if you go all the way around, it's kind of hard to read. But there'll be occasions where you just need to go all the way around. But we're not going to sublimate it twice. We're just going to create the design for the front and the back, and then just sublimate it all at once, all right? So what I'm going to start with is I decided I wanted to put like a quote or a saying. And if you go to Elements, and that may seem like a strange place to go with to find things like sayings and quotes. And give me 1 second here. Just want to get you onto my computer. Okay, so you should be able to see the computer now so you can follow me. So you can see that I have the camp mug on screen. I chose it from my favorites file because I already put a heart there. And so that brought it right back to the screen. And now I'm in the Elements. So I clicked on Elements, and as I scroll down to Elements, here's a category that I really just kind of stumbled over the other day, quotes and sayings. So we already got some pretty nice things kind of laid out for you instead of you having to create it yourself. So what I'm going to do for this one, let me scroll down. And it's down here somewhere. I didn't make this one a favorite. See, it takes me a little bit longer. There it is. Live more, worry less. Now, if I want to make it a favorite, I can go ahead and click on it right there and just add it to my favorites. See, when it gets become a dark heart. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to bring it over into the work area. Now, that's a little bit large because it appears to be cut off some. So I'm going to make it smaller so that it definitely fits within our work area the right way. And I'm going to move it over, okay, because I'm also going to put somebody's name on here. But I also want to change the color. Now remember, this is a marbleized pink. So I'm looking for a color that may work well on here. And what I did, because I'm designing this for someone named Julie, is I wanted to go with a color that was not clashing with this, but kind of complementary, but in the same color family, okay? So I'm going to go and change the color of this. You can still select it, that quote is still selected in the box. And we're going to go to fill color, okay? And we can use our color picker to just start looking for colors. But I'm going to tell you something. We forget sometimes that we can put in an RGB color if we know it. And I happen to know the RGB color I want to use. So I'm actually going to put it in here. It's 246, followed by 15. And the final is 172. Now, this is one way that you can go and put colors in, okay, that you want to use when you know a specific color. Just as important, I want you to think the other way around. If you use the color picker, and that was just sliding the arrow around to find the color, when you find the color you want to use with the color picker, it will tell you what the RGB number is. So in my case, since I'm going to do this saying and then Julie's name, I would make a note, if I didn't already know, the RGB value code so that I can get an exact match on the other side of the mug with the other part of the design. Does that make sense? So this is very useful to remember that you have that ability to see what the code is for the color you just chose, or just input it directly. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put in Julie. So we're going to go to text, and in the text, I'm just going to go straight to favorites. And you can see in here that I have a few. And this one just sounds almost derogatory, Abril fat face, okay? But it works, all right? So it's going to open up our text box here so we can put in what we want to put for text. And I'm going to put in Julie. And now I'm going to move Julie over here just to get in a better area for working. And I can make Julie bigger by dragging, but sometimes it's a lot quicker to just use our sizing tool. So I'll bring Julie up. Don't want to make it too overwhelming. Let me bring her back down just a little bit. And I want to maybe try the italics on there. I think that kind of fits in pretty well. And I want that same color, remember? We want that same color. So we're going to go to fill color for Julie, and guess what? Now that I have the RGB values showing, I can put in 246. 15 and 172. Now I have the exact same color for the front and the back designs. All right, so that's just another good tool that you have to use. Okay, so I feel like this is balanced out pretty well. Everything is within the boundaries. We wanted to make sure this design here did not get into our bleed area. It looks like it's pretty good there. And I think now that what I want to do is print it, okay? So we're going to click on print, and I have several printers, so I do have to find the one I'm using. I happen to be using an SG-1000 right here, and that's already selected. The paper is important. We have a lot of papers there. If I choose the wrong paper, it's going to give me an error message when it tries to print. I happen to be using US letter, okay? So I'm choosing US letter as my paper. I want to choose my product material. In this case, it's a ceramic mug. I'm using the TruePix Classic paper. With color mode, print quality, high quality, works great for me. But instead of photographic, I'm putting vivid, because when we do just graphics, we tend to use the vivid mode. But if it's a true photo, then of course, photographic mode, right? All right, we got those values in there. So the next thing we're going to do is hit print. And it's going to take this information and compile it, and then it's going to transfer it to my printer. Now, that's being done over the internet, so sometimes if we have slow internet, it may take just a minute, but look, I came across pretty quick. That's good. All right, so one more chance. I can verify that we do have everything mirrored, that we got the ceramic mug chosen, all our values look correct. And so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and hit the print button, and we're going to send it now into the printer itself, and then the printer will shoot that out, and then we'll set the mug up. Now I have a mug press over here while we're waiting for it to print that I've already set up. The values can be found on the Express website. So you can always go to the Express website to get the values. I will tell you that this is set for 180 degrees Celsius, which is 356 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to be doing it for 3 minutes. And typically with mugs, we put a lot of pressure on them. Okay? So it's already set up for that. So let me get the paper out. I have my image here printed out. And one of the little things that's just a little tip, it's really easy to go line these up, but sometimes once you get into lining up, something happens, you get a phone call or something distracts you and you come back, and yes, I have put one in upside down. So typically what I'll do is I'll actually put a little arrow in here to help remind me, but before I do that, I also want to trim the paper down. Now you see how big the paper is compared to the mug. You can buy mug paper, which has already been pre-cut. So that way we don't waste as much paper. Today I'm just using a full sheet. I'm going to cut off the excess. Then I'm going to put my little directional arrow, and then we'll tape it in place and get it ready for the heat press. So give me just a moment to cut this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just the idea is that when we cut it, that our design is in the center of the paper vertically. Okay, so I use the mug to get it started. And then I'm going to keep on cutting straight across. And I'll do the same thing over here. Now, I wasn't kidding. I'll take this and I can see that's right side up, okay? We all know that, right? But it doesn't hurt because once we put this down, it's a lot harder to see through it. It doesn't hurt to have just up in the corner somewhere, and now you could barely see me doing it, but I actually put a little arrow just to remind me, okay? Because like I said, anytime my boss can walk in that door, and he will totally distract me, and I would probably get it upside down. So the reality is we don't want that to happen. So we have a little arrow here, we have our mug here, we know which side is up there. So now we can verify also visually, we're gonna put this, we're gonna center the mug in regards to our two prints there, okay? Go ahead and get a little piece of heat tape ready and take the first part and bring it up here and put just a little bit of tape on it, and then bring up the second part. And when you bring these up, because we didn't cut the length of the paper, they should have the same distance between here and here, between the handle and the paper on each side. Unless you've gone and done some strange cutting. I mean, that happens. I mean, sometimes you have to use a really big sheet of paper because that's all you got. So, my little piece of tape didn't quite hold there the first time around, so let's just set that up again real quick. Very important that we get this on here correct, of course, but tight as well. So once again, I've done my lineup, and I'm looking through the paper, make sure all the vertical looks good. So there's a lot of time that you can put into getting the mug just right, but definitely that's important. So it doesn't hurt to put a little extra time in there and get it done just right. Now I'm trying to pull as much slackness out of the paper as I can, or should I say it a different way around, I am trying to make the paper as tight as I can against the mug. That's really, really important with mugs, that we gotta have the paper on there tight against the surface, okay, each and every time. All right, we got everything on here, and listen, there's my little arrow. So if I have any doubts, I know that this is in here pointing up the way that it should be, okay? All right, the last thing I want to do is put what we call a blowout sheet. That's a slang term. You're not going to find it in Wikipedia. With a blowout sheet, the whole idea is that we don't have any stray ink come out from the mug. This sheet here, you can cut it down. You don't have to tape it. It's just making sure no stray ink comes out and gets onto the surface of the heating platen, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. All my settings are set up, and I'm going to lock this down. And always pay attention when you're locking these down as to where the handle is. Because you're squeezing down and the handle's right in the middle. And if you have the handle too close to one side or the other of the platen, when you close it, it's possible you could break the handle off, okay? I've seen that done. All right, so the reality is it's in there cooking. Now, it's going to take about 3 minutes. Why does it take so long for ceramics to do this? Well, ceramics are like a giant heat sink, and they're pulling the heat in, but because of the nature of the material, it takes a while for it to completely heat up to the right temperature. So it takes time because of ceramics to do that. And by the same token, once we take it out, it takes a long time to cool off. That's why a coffee mug is really good, a ceramic coffee mug, for coffee. Because once you put hot coffee in there, the coffee will cool some as the mug warms up, but then the mug will retain that warmth and help keep the coffee, hot, or at least warm, okay, for a period of time. Eventually it gets cold. So that does take a while. Now, if this happened to be metal, metal heats up just like that, and we wouldn't be going for 3 minutes. So that's just a little understanding. Ceramics take a lot longer for press time, just based on their materials and their heat up characteristics, thermodynamics, something fun like that. Okay, so while that one is going, as I said, Express actually has these in 2 different colors. You see the pink one I'm working on, and we also have a gray one as well. So these are very interesting. I think they're brand new. I think it's something they just got and put out in the marketplace. So it gives you more opportunities to create some unique products. Now, while that's going, the next thing we're going to do will be, in just a moment, this particular ornament. And with the ornament, I'm going to go a totally different route than I did here, because I'm actually going to put a photograph on this one, whereas I did not on here. But let's finish this one first. We have, looks like, a little over a minute and a half left for this to finish up. And an interesting thing, too, is when you pull mugs out, normally anything that we're taking out, it's like, in this case, it's 180 degrees Celsius, okay? If you touch that with your fingers, it hurts, right? It burns. So we don't normally do that, right? We use a glove. But interestingly, the handle, because it's not right down there with the heating elements, the handle typically is not hot. So you'll see me touch it real quick to make sure it doesn't burn. And then I'll grab it and pull it out, and I can actually hold it by the handle. So that's a pretty unique thing. Again, it's about ceramics, because it takes a long time for the heat to make its way up into the handle, because the handle itself is not touching the platen. All right, I also suggest that you have like cooling racks, just like cookie racks, the ones that you pull a tin of cookies out of the oven, okay, that you put on there, and it's raised up a little bit, air gets underneath, and it lets that whole cookie container cool down, okay? It's a great way to cool down mugs as well. So, easy way to do it. So, anyway, just a little bit longer here, and it will be ready. Hey, you like that? I got an extra arm. You ever seen a 3-arm guy? So, all right, we are almost done here. And it takes forever when you're actually waiting on it. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the time of day, or excuse me, the time is the situation where I would be doing something else. All right, now I'm doing a live. But if I was working in a shop, while that was going for 3 minutes, that gives me time to do what? Prepare the next mug, or create a new design, do some paperwork, whatever. I mean, 3 minutes suddenly gives you a lot of extra work time. So, make use of it on some of these longer running products. Okay, we're down finally to 45 seconds. Feels like it's been there 10 minutes. But we're almost there. We're going to hear the beep beeps any minute now. Okay, not any minute, but in 35 seconds to be exact. And then we'll have our mug out. And then we'll go on from there. Question comes up to me all the time about dipping mugs in water. A lot of people will say, hey, you pull the mug out and it's hot, dip it in lukewarm water, don't dip it in cold water. And there's a lot of people say don't do it. Traditionally, more people did it than didn't do it, but we found over time with certain brands of mugs, it could crack the coating. And so it's typically not recommended that you dip it in water. Just find a cooling spot for it and let it cool down on its own. Now you see, I'm touching the handle and it's not burning me yet. So I can pull this out and immediately pull out the blowout paper. We don't need the blowout paper anymore. And then I can work to get this paper off without burning my hand because all that area is hot. So I'm going to get this paper going and get the last of it off. You always want to get this paper off while it's hot. This is called a hot peel. And the reason is that once it cools, the paper has a nasty tendency to stick on there permanently. But there we go. We have Julie on our mug on one side, and on the other, without me getting burned, we have the saying that we put there as well. So we did get both sides done in one pressing, and we have a nice gift now for Julie. Okay? Great Christmas gift right there, pretty simple. And you know what? I love the marbleized mug. I really do. It just gives it a really nice, interesting look. Okay, so let's switch gears. We're going to do our ornament next. And this is a Benelux wooden ornament. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out the screen here, and I'm just going to start over in Creative Studio so you can see from the beginning. We'll go to Start Creating. And this time I don't have a favorite, okay? I didn't set up a favorite. I'm going to do it a different way. Instead of going through every single blank trying to find it, I'm just going to type in the first few letters because I know it's a Benelux. And there it goes. I didn't even have to spell the whole thing out. So it's the Benelux 4-inch by 2.75-inch wooden ornament. So I'm going to click on that to bring it into the workspace. There it is. You can see it with the ribbon going through the hole in the picture on the screen. But you want to make sure you pull the ribbon out because we certainly don't want to press that. That could be a problem. All right, so we have our ornament here on the screen. And this time I'm going to put a picture of a pet on here and then the pet's name, because pets make great ornaments. And this happens to be my actual dog when she was little. Okay, her name is Molly, so we're going to make an ornament for her. And you can believe she already has plenty of ornaments too. But we're going to make something special for you guys to see. And I'm going to go to Galleries. Galleries is where we would upload images. So if I needed to upload a picture, I would go to My Images and then upload it. Just so happens I already uploaded it, okay? So there she is right here, Molly 1. So I'm going to click on Molly, and she's going to come over here. I want to make my work area a little bit larger, so I'm going to click on the plus, and that makes it easier for me to see what I'm doing, okay? So if I need to move her around a little bit or whatever. She fits pretty darn good, and I purposely have space over here because I'm going to put her name over here. So let's go to Text. Let's go to Favorites. And this time I'm using this particular font. And so it comes over. It's here on the screen. You just can't see it right now because of the color. But we go to the text box, and I put in Molly. Now, I want to make that larger because trying to see that right now is quite difficult to do. So we can enlarge it this way, or let me do this. Scroll down and do it this way. So let me get Molly up here. And you really can't read it. Why? Because it's black. So I want to change that. First of all, I want to make it bold. So that fills it in a little bit more. And now I'm going to go to Fill Color. Now this one I don't have one picked out, so we're just going to try and see if we can create the right color. What I typically try to do is, if there's other color in here, like you can see her little toy down here, can I match that color? Easier said than done, okay? But that's kind of what my goal is. And let me go back and make it large again. So I'm trying to see if we can get Molly kind of close to this area here, though it's not exact. Still hard to see Molly while we're working on it, so let's do something else. Many times with text, I put a little bit of an outline, or it's called stroke. And here, oops, too much. I just want a tiny bit because it really changes the dynamics of the lettering when you look at it. Makes it a whole lot easier to see. It doesn't really make it 3D, but it seems like it gives it some depth, okay? So here I put her name on there, and I don't want to really cut her face off too much, so let's make her name a little bit smaller, and just keep it right there. Now, a lot of different things you can think of here, because people that buy ornaments for their pets, they realize the pets get older. So typically a lot of times they'll put the year on there. so that they remember what year this was, this picture was taken. Same thing with children. It's very common to put the year for that Christmas so that on the, every time you see the ornament in the future, you know what year it was, and you can figure out how old the child was. This particular ornament we can print front and back because it would be customary. Well, really on a tree, you only see one side most of the time, but you never know. So if you want to do two-sided, you can, but with being it wood, I would not try to do both at the same time. Now, I've done some things that are metal, like metal name badges that are thin metal, and thin, really heats up and brings the heat in quick. And we'll do both sides at the same time with metals sometimes, okay? If it's a thin metal, we'll actually print both images, and then we'll fold the paper over and in half so that one image is lined up here, one's there, and we'll do them both at the same time. But not with this one. This one, do one side, you would let it cool down before you do the other side. Now, just in the essence of time, I'm only going to do one side today, but think about it. The other side could be the exact same design, or you may actually put, Molly's First Christmas on the back or something else like that. It's totally up to you. It may even have a different picture of Molly. Totally up to you. Just be creative in whatever you want to do. Okay, let me double check it one more time, make sure it's spelled right. The color still isn't a perfect match. I knew it wouldn't be perfect, so that's just, we try and see if we can get there. But if we can't, the main thing is to try and be close, right? So we have lots of colors up in there. I actually like that one better too because it's a little brighter, even though I know it's not quite what's down there at the bottom. Okay? She's cute, isn't she? She is a golden doodle for anyone that's interested. She's a golden doodle. Alrighty, I think I'm ready to print it. So let's click our print button. Let's always check our settings here. If you only have one printer, it's always going to default to that printer. It's just me that has more than one. The paper size is the one you want to double check because it will, if you have the wrong paper in there, it's going to cause you a problem. I am US letter, so I'm verified that's set up correct. This is not metal, this is wood, but guess what? There's no wood on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the MDF board because in playing with this, I feel like it's the closest substrate choice to this. High quality print, photographic, just what we want. And now we'll go to our print button and we'll send this over to be processed. All right, our print manager's up. MDF board, high quality, TruePix paper, everything looks pretty good to me. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and send it to the printer, and then we'll be ready to set it up for pressing. As I say, with my connections in here, it may take just a minute to get to the printer, but it will. There it goes, I hear it now. It's a good sound to hear, let me tell you. So once this comes out, the first thing that we want to do always is to make sure that the sizing is correct, all right? So I have my printout here with Molly, and it is mirrored as it's supposed to be. And what I'm going to do now is just lay this on here. Remember, it's two-sided, so it doesn't matter which side you do first, all right? This particular one has a lot more wood grain look on one side than it does the other, so it's totally up to you which one goes where. But I'm going to lay it on here, and the most important thing to me is making sure the name Molly is not cut off anywhere. Very easy to do if you're into that bleed area. But looking at it, everything's lining up, and I don't see any problems whatsoever. Again, let's make sure it's right side up, okay? It is right side up. This is going to go on here this way, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little arrow on there, just as a reminder, in case something happens in the middle of everything. Notice I put it way up in the corner so it doesn't affect the sublimation whatsoever. A lot of you might choose to trim the paper down. That's fine. I did not in this case, and I'm going to use heat tape to hold this into place. And let's get a little bit more tape right here. And we're about ready to go onto the heat press. Now, this particular heat press, the flat press, I have this one set up at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. which is also 204 degrees Celsius. So it's our standard sublimation temperature. We're going to go about 45 seconds at a medium pressure. Okay, so everything's set up and ready to go. We're going to put this in such that the paper is on top and the substrate's on the bottom. See that? So that's the way this is going to go in. We'll place it right here, and I'm going to get a blowout sheet. And this is, again, to protect the heat press platen from any stray gas that comes out during sublimation. So let's go Molly. This one's only 45 seconds, so this is going to go a whole lot faster than the last one did. So we really wouldn't have time to do a whole lot extra, but I can tell you if I was doing multiple ornaments, I would be trying to, having them set up and be printing out so that I can be taping them and preparing them to go under. Now keep in mind too, that ornament, okay, is not that large, right? So how many ornaments could I do on one sheet of paper using the US letter size? We'll look at that when it comes back out, but I guarantee we could do 4 and we could probably do 6. So that's one of the things to think about. You see me using just one big sheet of paper, one ornament on there, really a waste of paper. The idea is if we have a lot of ornaments to do, let's set it up so that we can print, or press, should I say, well, print and press for that matter, and better utilize the paper itself. Okay. We're going to pull this off, and I am going to go ahead and just tear the paper right down the middle. That's like the easiest way to get that thing going, So we tear it, and tear it a little bit more, get all that tape off. It looks so unneat what I'm doing, but actually it's coming off very nicely. And at the end, get that piece of tape off. And notice I did it without burning my fingers. Of course, if you do this long enough, you'll probably burn your fingers and you won't have any nerves left and you wouldn't feel it anyway. So let's flip it over so we can actually see it. It is hot, so I'm not holding this one. But here is Molly, and she is done, okay? And you would be ready now to do the second side if you're going to do a second side. Once it cools down, then you would also be ready to add the ribbon to it, okay? But don't add the ribbon while it's hot, obviously. That's not a good thing. Now, just for fun, I told you I thought we could put maybe 4, 5, or 6 on there at the same time. Of course, now I got to reconstruct the paper. But if I was to reconstruct the paper, let's see. It's something like this. I know this looks silly, right? But I mean, the idea is that's roughly what the paper size was before I tore everything off. So how many could I really put on that piece of paper? Sorry, it looks so ragged there. Let's see. I could put 1 here. I could put 1 there. I could put 1 here, 1 there, 1 here, 1 there. That'll probably be stretching it to do 6. I think 4 would be a better number, because then I'd do them like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, with plenty of space in between. But still, as you can see, we could get 4 on that one single sheet of paper. So think about that. Even if it's different images, as long as it's the same kind of substrate and the same thickness, okay? That could actually be a different kind of ornament, but it needs to be the same type of substrate and the same thickness because of the heat press settings that we have to set up to do the particular ornament. So keep that in mind, but that definitely will speed up your work, because now in that 45 seconds, you would have had 4 ornaments done instead of just 1, okay? And the more you can put out per hour, the cheaper they actually get, or less expensive. Because if you have a fixed overhead per hour, let's say, just for fun, okay? If it was like 10 US dollars, remember I'm in the US, okay? So if I could do 1 an hour, it cost me $10, right? But if I could do 4 an hour, they cost $2.50 each. So, that's the beauty of it, is being able to do more pieces per hour against that same cost. All right, so those were the items I wanted to show you today. They are available from Express. Alex, did you have a chance to pull up any of those part numbers? Okay, good. So you should have been able to see on there. There's also a voucher, and the voucher will give you a discount if you came and saw the webinar. And that, of course, was Express. You don't have to call all the way over to the U.S. to me, because I'll just tell you to call Express. Okay, but that is Express's special offer, so make sure you do take advantage of that. If you have any questions about anything that we've done today or any of the products or whatever, Express, great bunch of people. I've worked with them. They will be glad to help you. Very friendly, very knowledgeable. So give them a call, contact them, and ask questions about the different things because they have a lot there to offer you. All right, then, I believe we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you sharing a little bit of time this afternoon with me. We will be doing another joint live webinar, well, not even a webinar, Facebook Live, coming up in November. And so keep your eyes open for that because we're going to talk about Christmas again, but we're going to go from a different angle. We're going to talk about Christmas market in regards to the corporate marketplace. A lot of opportunity for that as well. So again, that's coming up. I believe it's November 2nd, but it's early November, so you can just double check with Express on that date. It'll be the same time, so be sure to tune in. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.